Well, I want to talk a little bit more before we move into the program. And again, I want to invite anybody who would like to give us a call here at Radio Maria on Embracing Your Greatness. That number, if you'd like to talk to Jeannie Hahnemann, as we're talking about reclaiming sexual health, is 866-333-MARY. That's 866-333-MARY. Jeannie, I want to ask you a question. You had said something previously about how a man can be excited just by his computer starting up, and it made me think of a program like My Strange Sexual Addiction. It's like a program on cable, and they show like a man who believes that he can make love to his car. And I was thinking to myself that this is odd. It's happening more and more frequently, these strange quote unquote sexual attractions to inanimate objects. And I'm wondering if somebody was linking these inanimate objects to arousal, then it would be like a transference of some kind. So you're saying that we're seeing people being aroused by just computers starting up?
Absolutely. I mean, we've always known of sexual fetishes. And what happens is there is some inanimate object, something that occurred at a time of heavy arousal, and in that arousal, again, the brain released those chemicals, the dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, and serotonin, which God's plan was you would have this experience with your spouse and you would be bonded, literally addicted to your spouse. Well, if this occurs and there's some other inanimate object that the person is focusing on at the time of the release of these chemicals, they become bonded to that object. And so that is where the fetishes arise.
So
that's where those experiences arise.
What about willpower? Isn't it enough just to say, well, I'm going to go to confession,
No.
I'm going to pray, and I'm just going to stay away from that, and I'm just going to ask for the grace from God, and I'm just going to get through this? What about that?
No, in fact, that actually causes a greater addiction.
Really?
Because it is not by willpower that we're doing this, because, again, we have to look at the brain science. The prefrontal cortex, which is the area of your brain where you have that ability to use willpower for certain things. First of all, it is not even fully developed, they believe now, until mid-20s. And so the more young people that are exposed to these sexual experiences, which are everywhere today, then it directly goes to this limbic brain system, which is all in the subconscious. Okay. So you're not going to be able to, even if you are a 50-year-old man and you have a developed prefrontal cortex and you weren't exposed previously to this, and this is a new experience for you, the willpower doesn't work, because once it clicks in, the limbic brain system takes over, so that when husband and wife are in the marital embrace, they're not thinking about balancing the checkbook. They're not thinking about all these other things. It's purely at this subconscious limbic brain system that this occurs. And so then what you end up having happen is, as soon as you are done with the rush of this experience and the chemicals are fading away, the person is filled with the guilt and the shame. And they really get just such a strong guilt, such a strong shame. They, do the white knuckling and say, I willpower, I'm not going to do this again, I'm not going to do this again. And when they do it again, because it will grab them and they will do it again, they go back into that shame and guilt cycle, which then they feel can only be relieved by continually being in a state of these chemicals that numb them out. So that's where you start getting cutting. That's where you move into alcohol and you start using street drugs. And they're just constantly looking for a high that can stop their thinking about their lack of willpower.
Okay. Well, we have a guest we have somebody on the line that would like to ask you a question, Jean. So sorry to interrupt you, but they've been waiting a little bit here.
Sure.
Thank you for calling into Embracing Your Greatness. You're on the line with Jeannie Hahnemann. Do you have a question? Well, I'm waiting to see if they get...
we don't have a caller.
Okay, it looks like we've got a third person on the line. Okay, sorry about that, Jeannie.
That's okay. Well, one of the things that we were just referring to was whether willpower works or not. And when I say that it actually increases the problem, it's because how the person starts to feel about themselves when they aren't able to maintain this through willpower, then they go into this state of anxiety that increases the likelihood of a relapse. So what our program, Reclaim Sexual Health, does is that in the Reclaim program, we actually retrain the brain. Now, the first time my husband went through the program, the video educational part, that's all he went through. There was no change. he had to do these brain exercises. And we've actually, been able to refer to this as the brain science of change. And the best way for me to explain it, my husband's a scientist. He can give you all the great brain knowledge. I'm going to tell you it this way. If you've ever known anyone who's had a stroke and they went through therapy to train another part of the brain to take over the part of the brain that was damaged, that's what our program will do. These brain exercises that we have brain scientists at Harvard on our staff. I mean, they have really created these exercises to train another part of the brain to take over so that you have this control within. So that's how it works.
Oh, that's just amazing. That's probably another whole show, but I want to ask a couple more questions so we can get right into the actual program that you have so that people are understanding about that. But before we get into that, the area of Candeo, Candeo, is that correct?
It's actually Reclaim now. It's
okay.
The Reclaim Sexual Health. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just Reclaim.
It's powered by Candeo, but it's Reclaim Sexual Health.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, good. Thanks for letting me know about that. I'm glad that you brought that in. Can you share with us what the spiritual connection is? We're talking a lot about brain chemistry. We're talking a lot about how this affects the brain somatically, spiritually. How is this affecting our personhood and affecting us on a spiritual level? Can you share that, please?
Well, actually, the beauty of it is that the brain